Escape path. We'll talk about that real quickly. If we're in a flagging procedure, I realize that there's a lot of places that don't have, that's not ideal, that don't look like this, that don't look like the diagrams, that don't look like the MUTCD, or don't look like they have the 14-foot wide shoulder. But in all cases, we need to plan ahead and do our best to find an escape route. If you're looking at your flagging station and we're setting up our work zone and whatever, when you find your place to stand, your place this is where I'm going to be, this is my flagging station, one of the things you need to be thinking about that's very, very, very critical is, where do I go in the event that things go haywire? If I'm here and I've got my common sense cap on and I recognize I've got my, how far do I need to be able to see? 500 feet. I need to have 500 feet of sight distance, right? How far away from the work am I? A minimum of how far? 100 feet. What's desirable? 200 to 300 feet. But if I've got that, and if I'm looking at this way, 500 feet down this way, and if I'm using common sense and I'm like, hey, that car is not going to, it's not doing what it's supposed to, and it's not going to be able to stop, and I've got to be able to plan, so I need to have in my head, where am I going to go beforehand? I don't want to be able to see when that car gets 200 feet from me and I realize it is not going to stop, and at that point I've got about a second and a half to make a decision. I don't want to be thinking, you've seen those squirrels in the middle of the road, like, shoot, 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 and you're trying to figure out which way they're going to go. You don't want to be that squirrel, right? You don't be trying to figure out which way you want to go. You want to have a route picked that gets you, and your route does not need to go this way, right? It does not need to go. It does not need to go in a way that is blocked by a truck or some other way. You need to have an escape route that's picked. If we're flagging here, if we're replacing this box culvert right here, or this, I guess looks like a little box culvert, do I need to stand right here? No. Why would I stand right there? Yeah, exactly. I need to move my flagging station. If we're doing just like a little bit of work right here, I can move my flagging station back this way. The length. If I need to move it back this way, what happens? What do I need to think about? Right, back this way. What else have I done? If I move my flagging station back further back this way, what do I have to think about too? Right, exactly. Now I've got a whole other thing to deal with, because this may be a driveway. It's kind of hard. It looks like a stop bar. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe a driveway, but for sure this is a roadway, right? So now what has happened? I went from 2 flaggers to a minimum of how many? 3 flaggers and another set of signs for that side road, because we've got to take all that into consideration. So that's things we have to think about. Different things. We got to be alert of all these things. Where's my escape path out here? Just depends if you're a bear and how good you can climb, right? If I'm flagging on this side of the roadway, if I got a flagging station right here, where am I going to go? How many of our roadways look just like this right here? Probably a greater majority look like this than look like that. I could just about guarantee it. So I say that, and in saying that, I say, if the major question is going to be, if all of y'all called me every morning and said, hey Dwayne, I got a flagging situation out here, you need to tell me where I'm going to stand to find an escape route. I can't. I don't know. I can tell you this, that they're not all going to be ideal, but all I can tell you to do is do your best. And do your best to try to find a place that meets something that keeps you as safe as possible. If you can move it down that way or move it back this way at some place that's even more convenient, I don't know. Yes, sir.
If you have room, can you stand on the other side of the guardrail?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. As long as you're still visible enough, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. You probably even feel safer. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Yeah. And there's a lot of things. Guys, are not going to fit in this book. There's not going to fit into this class. We're probably, if we were trying to fit all these scenarios into one class, we'd be here for 3 days trying to figure them all out. And no answer is going to be the same. We'll just tell you, do the best you can, and be as safe as you can. And so that's a good question. Any questions on that? Communication. Good communication is very, very important. Radios, we use those. knowing what you're going to do is important instead of just going out there so many times. And that flagging situation I told you about earlier, where they're trying to flag on a multi-lane highway. I'm confident that they walked out there on the job that day and said, you and you are flagging on this end, you're on this, which is the two guys flagging on one end and one guy's on the other end. That's your job, you're flagging. So they walked out there, and what they had one set of signs for one end and one set of signs for the other end. They didn't tell them what the scenario was, so when they walked out there and they set their signs up, they're like, I don't know what to do. So they just set their signs up for what they had. So proper planning and good communication. Knowing what's going on, having a plan. Never just assume, and don't walk out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you walk out there and it says, this don't look right. And here's the thing. Here's a very, very key and critical piece of information. If you're on a job and you've been standing right here in this flagging scenario, if this is your spot, and in the course of an hour, there have been 4 near accidents, something probably ain't right. Something can probably be adjusted and make it a little bit better, right? Now either we can put some signs back or move it back or something like that. If there've been 4 near accidents in just a short amount of time, that's what those guys told me. He said, hey, look, we were standing here yesterday and 2 of these cars about merged together. He said, we about got hit. I'm like, well, now you're standing in the middle of the roadway. How's that going to make things any better? Oh. Well, that's a good idea. You're right. I'm like, go stand over on the shoulder. How is it going to be any better if you're in the middle of the roadway? Oh, okay. All right. Just little things like that. But if there's things, if you've put traffic control out and there's been more than one, if traffic don't get it, or if motorists don't get it and there's been more than one car that's been confused, there's probably something that's not set up just exactly right. Does that make sense? You might want to go back and have somebody drive through. Have one of the guys say, hey, get in the truck, drive through. Make sure our signs look right. Say if something looks a little bit odd. See if we can go back and check and double check it. See if it looks any different. We talked about this earlier. We can, for here, since you don't have line of sight, you wouldn't need to use radios. You can use line of sight, but that takes another person out of the equation. I don't like to use that.